Hello, and welcome back to my channel, Grow with Wisdom. I'm truly glad you're here today. If you're a gentleman over 60, or even if you're well into your 70s or 80s, you've likely learned to take life a bit slower, a bit wiser. You've seen much, loved deeply, lost, recovered, and along the way, gathered lessons few ever talk about openly. But today, we're going to gently uncover one of those quiet corners of life, one that's rarely discussed with the respect or maturity it deserves: masturbation in older age. Now, you might be thinking, at my age, does this really matter? The short answer is yes, more than most people realize. The truth is, as we age, our bodies change. Hormones shift, sensitivity evolves, and so does our emotional and physical relationship with ourselves. What once came naturally in our younger years may now require more intention, understanding, and care. Today, in this video, we'll explore 7 masturbation mistakes that many older men unknowingly make, habits that can quietly harm your physical well-being, emotional balance, and even your intimate relationships. We'll talk about things like outdated routines that no longer serve you, the impact of medications and circulation, emotional detachment, and even the deep connection between self-touch and mental health. And don't worry, this isn't a lecture. Think of it more as a fireside chat with a caring doctor who's seen it all before and simply wants to help you live fully, comfortably, and wisely. By the end, you'll walk away with clarity, confidence, and a renewed perspective on this private part of your well-being. You might even feel a little more connected to your body and your journey than you have in years. So stay with me, because mistake number 5, that one surprises nearly everyone, and it might just change the way you think about aging, pleasure, and peace. Now let's get started with mistake number 1. Ignoring changes in sensitivity and blood flow. Let me tell you a story about a gentleman named Walter. Walter is 72, a retired engineer, quiet by nature, and always the kind of man who prided himself on being in control of his work, his finances, and yes, even his private life. But in recent years, something started to change. He noticed that sensations just weren't what they used to be. What once felt vibrant and immediate had become dull, distant, and that left him confused and even a little ashamed. The mistake Walter was making, and many men over 60 do this too, is ignoring the very natural changes that happen to our bodies with age. Specifically, changes in sensitivity and blood flow. You see, after 60, our bodies gradually produce less testosterone. This hormonal shift affects everything from muscle tone to mood, and especially how we experience arousal and sensation. At the same time, the blood vessels that support healthy circulation, including those involved in erections and genital sensitivity, may not work as efficiently as they once did. The result? Many older men begin using more pressure, more friction, or more aggressive stimulation in an effort to feel something. But this is where harm can quietly begin. That extra pressure can lead to nerve desensitization, small injuries, or even chronic numbness over time. Instead of adjusting the experience to fit your changing body, you may be forcing your body to keep up with a younger version of yourself, and that's neither fair nor healthy. The wiser path is learning to adapt, slower touch, more exploration, using warmth, breath, and presence to awaken the senses gently rather than aggressively. Some men find that warm baths or using high-quality lubricants designed for older skin can completely transform their experience. Remember, this stage of life isn't about doing things the way you always have. It's about listening to your body now. Let it guide you, not your memory of how things used to be. Walter eventually made peace with this, and what he discovered surprised him. Slowing down brought not less pleasure, but more. Depth instead of intensity. Comfort instead of frustration. So, ask yourself, have you been adjusting to the man you are today, or holding on to the man you used to be? There's no shame in changing. In fact, there's deep wisdom in it. Mistake number 2, treating it solely as a physical release. Let's talk about Harold. Harold is 68, a widower for nearly a decade now. He spends his mornings in the garden, his afternoons reading mystery novels, and his evenings. Well, sometimes he finds himself caught in old routines. Like many men his age, Harold treats self-pleasure as a purely physical outlet, something quick, functional, and to the point. But here's the mistake: reducing masturbation to nothing, more than a release, without acknowledging its emotional or psychological dimensions. As we grow older, the meaning of touch, especially self-touch, changes. What once might have been driven by young desire or pure instinct now has the potential to become something deeper, or more disconnected, depending on how we approach it. Harold admitted that, over the years, his moments of self-pleasure began to feel empty, not because his body had failed him, but because his heart wasn't in it. He wasn't truly present. There was no affection, no mindfulness, no connection to himself, just habit. And here's what we often overlook: your body and spirit still crave intimacy, even if it's just with yourself. It's not about fantasy or escapism. It's about reconnection. Masturbation after 60 can be more than a physical act. It can be a form of self-respect, of grounding, a way of saying, I'm still here, I still matter, I still feel. So, how do you shift this experience? The key is presence. Rather than rushing through the act, pause, take time, light a candle, play some calming music, take a warm shower. Explore your body with curiosity, not judgment. Try breathing deeply. Close your eyes, ask yourself what feels good, not just physically but emotionally. This kind of attention turns the experience from a mechanical task into a gentle ritual, one that honors who you are, not just what your body can do. Harold began doing just that. It wasn't always easy. Old habits die hard. But over time, he noticed a shift, not just in how he felt physically, but in how he related to himself, with more kindness, more acceptance. You're not just a body. You're a soul that's lived a long, rich life. And you deserve moments that reflect that richness, even in the quietest corners of your day. So ask yourself, is your intimacy with yourself coming from connection or just routine? If you're still watching this video and finding it helpful, drop a number 2 in the comments to show me you're with me. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, so you never miss any video that's all about supporting you. Your support means everything and helps us keep creating video content that truly makes a difference. Mistake number 3, overlooking the impact of medications. Now let's turn to a story about Raymond. Raymond is 76, a retired postal worker, grandfather of 5, and one of those men who always kept a quiet dignity about him. Lately, though, he'd been feeling off. Not just tired, but disconnected from himself. He shared privately with his doctor that his sex drive had faded, erections were inconsistent. Even his desire to engage in self-pleasure had diminished. To set right first, he blamed age. I guess this is just what happens when you get older, he said. But here's the surprising truth, one that many men miss completely. Often, it's not just age. It's your medications. That's right. One of the biggest and most overlooked mistakes older men make when it comes to masturbation and overall intimacy is ignoring how common prescriptions can directly affect your sexual health. High blood pressure pills, antidepressants, diabetes medications, even something as routine as antihistamines or cholesterol-lowering drugs. Many of these have side effects that interfere with libido, blood flow, and sensation. And the problem isn't always the medication itself, it's that no one ever brings it up. Doctors often focus on the primary condition, not the private consequences. And many men, especially from generations where modesty was deeply ingrained, simply don't ask. But here's what Raymond did right. He found the courage to speak up. He sat down with his doctor and asked, kindly but clearly, "Could my prescriptions be part of the reason I'm feeling this way?" To his surprise, the doctor nodded. They made adjustments, a different dosage here, a new option there, and slowly the light came back. Not overnight, but gradually, like a sunrise. The lesson is this: don't suffer in silence. Don't assume that your changing experience of pleasure is just part of getting old. Sometimes it's a fixable detail, a conversation away. And even if a medication is necessary, there may be ways to support your sexual health naturally through better circulation, nutrition, or specific exercises that increase blood flow to the pelvic region. So if you've been feeling a little distant from your body, if things just don't seem to work the way they used to, pause and consider what's in your medicine cabinet, because honoring your well-being means looking at the whole picture, not just one part of it. Mistake number 4, using pornography as the only source of stimulation. Let me introduce you to Leonard. Leonard is 70, a retired high school principal, sharp as ever. With a dry wit and a collection of jazz records he still plays on Saturday evenings. But in the privacy of his own thoughts, Leonard was wrestling with something he wasn't proud of. He had started relying heavily on online pornography. What began as an occasional curiosity in his mid-60s became a near-daily habit, and while it provided quick stimulation, over time it left him feeling strangely empty, disconnected, even a bit ashamed. This brings us to one of the most common and least talked about mistakes men over 60 make when it comes to masturbation: relying solely on pornography for arousal and stimulation. Now, let's be clear. There's no shame in being curious or in exploring erotic material. But when it becomes the only way you engage with your sexuality, it can quietly rob you of something deeply human: imagination, intimacy, and inner connection. See, most modern pornography is designed for instant gratification. It's fast, intense, and often unrealistic. The brain, especially as it ages, can become overstimulated by this kind of content. And over time, what used to excite you naturally through memory, emotion, or gentle fantasy can start to feel dull or insufficient. Even worse, some men report difficulty achieving arousal without it. What begins as a tool becomes a crutch. Leonard eventually noticed this change in himself. He no longer felt satisfied afterward. There was no emotional warmth, no reflection, just a fleeting moment, followed by a strange kind of loneliness. So, he made a change. He began weaning off constant visual stimulation. He tried using memory instead, recalling tender moments from his marriage, the smell of his wife's hair, the sound of her laughter. He also began reading more sensual, narrative-based stories, ones that engaged his imagination rather than overwhelmed his senses. The difference was profound. Leonard began feeling more present, more like himself? So ask yourself, is the stimulation you're using feeding your soul or just flooding your senses? There's nothing wrong with curiosity, but there's something deeply right about rediscovering intimacy from within through imagination, emotion, and the slow art of presence. Don't underestimate the quiet power of your own mind. It has carried your memories, your love, and your longing for decades. It's still there, and it still works beautifully when you give it space to breathe. Mistake number 5, neglecting the pelvic floor. Muscles. Let me tell you about Frank. Frank is 74, a retired firefighter, proud father of 4, and someone who's always taken care of his body. Even now, he walks 2 miles every morning and still does light strength training at the community center. But lately, Frank had noticed something unsettling. His erections weren't as firm, and sometimes he struggled to reach climax at all. He assumed it was just part of aging. "I guess the engine's running on low fuel," he joked to his doctor. But here's what his doctor told him, and what surprised Frank most. It wasn't his age, it was his pelvic floor. You see, the pelvic floor is a group of muscles located at the base of your pelvis. They support the bladder, bowels, and yes, your sexual organs. These muscles play a critical role in erectile function, ejaculation, and even orgasm intensity. Yet most older men have never heard of them, much less trained them. And here lies the mistake: neglecting these vital muscles, assuming that they're somehow immune to the aging process. Just like any other muscle group, your pelvic floor weakens with age, especially if you spend a lot of time sitting, which reduces circulation and flexibility. Over time, this can lead to problems like erectile dysfunction, urinary leakage, or difficulty achieving climax. But the good news is this: these muscles can be strengthened at any age. That's right, even in your 70s or 80s, a few simple exercises like Kegels can make a tremendous difference. Frank's doctor showed him how to identify the pelvic floor muscles, the same ones you use to stop urinating midstream. By gently contracting and holding those muscles for a few seconds at a time, several times a day, Frank slowly began to rebuild strength. No equipment, no gym, just a little patience and persistence. After a few weeks, he began to notice firmer erections. After a couple of months, his confidence returned, not just in the bedroom, but in his whole body. The lesson here is simple but powerful. Your body still responds to care, still responds to training, even in quiet, hidden places like the pelvic floor. So, don't overlook what's beneath the surface. Strengthening that small, invisible group of muscles may be one of the most important things you can do, not just for your sexual health, but for your self-esteem and vitality. Mistake number 6, allowing shame or guilt to linger. Let's meet Clarence. Clarence is 80 years old, a retired pastor, soft-spoken and wise, a man of deep faith and integrity. But Clarence carried something heavy inside him, something he rarely voiced. For decades, he viewed masturbation with discomfort, something that was best left in the shadows, not talked about, not acknowledged. Even after his wife passed away 10 years ago, and his need for emotional and physical release became more personal, he struggled. Every time he tried to reconnect with his body, a quiet voice whispered, "You shouldn't be doing this." This, dear friend, is one of the most hidden but harmful mistakes men make as they grow older, allowing shame or guilt to live on in their private lives. The truth is, many of us were raised in times when even talking about the body, let alone touching it, was surrounded by silence or judgment. Add layers of religious teachings, cultural expectations, and family taboos, and it's no wonder so many men over 60 carry quiet guilt about something as natural as self-pleasure. But here's the deeper truth. Shame serves no purpose in healing or connection. It only creates distance from your body, from peace, and often from the very joy and comfort that could help you feel more whole. Clarence eventually found peace, not by denying his faith, but by re-examining it. He began to understand that self-pleasure, when approached with respect and mindfulness, wasn't a betrayal of his values. It was an expression of self-care, of staying connected to his humanity, even in solitude. And you know what happened? The guilt began to lift, slowly, gently, like fog dissolving in morning light. When you approach yourself with kindness rather than judgment, everything changes. Instead of a shameful secret, the act becomes an expression of your vitality, your tenderness, your enduring connection to life itself. You are not broken. You are not too old to feel. And there is nothing unworthy about wanting to know and care for your own body. So ask yourself, are you carrying guilt that no longer belongs to you? Is it time to lay it down gently and choose compassion instead? The journey into aging is not just physical, it's emotional, spiritual, and deeply human. Let's make it one filled with grace. If you're still watching this video and finding it helpful, drop a number 6 in the comments to show me you're with me. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss any video that's all about supporting you. Your support means everything and helps us keep creating content that truly makes a difference. Mistake number 7. Believing intimacy ends with age. Let me share the story of Donald. Donald is 83. A former music teacher with a tender heart and the kind of smile that still warms a room. His wife, Margaret, passed away 6 years ago. They were married for over 5 decades. Since her passing, Donald had assumed that chapter of his life, of physical closeness, of warmth and touch, was simply over. It's not for me anymore, he told himself. That part of life has passed. This is one of the most deeply felt mistakes older men make, believing that intimacy, in all its beautiful forms, has an expiration date. But here's what Donald eventually realized, and what I want to share with you today. Intimacy doesn't end. It evolves. It's true, the fiery passion of youth may shift into something softer, more reflective. The pace may change. The desires may deepen. But your need to be touched, to feel connection, to experience closeness with others or with yourself remains. Masturbation, at its best, is not just about arousal. It's about recognizing that your body still matters, that you are still worthy of care, of comfort, and of closeness, even if you're single, even if your partner is no longer with you, even if it's just you in the quiet of your room, with only the hum of memory and breath to keep you company. Donald began to understand this, not through anyone's advice, but by listening to his own heart. He realized that every time he rejected his own desire for touch, he was rejecting a part of himself, a part that still needed to feel alive. So he changed how he thought about it. Instead of seeing intimacy as something that ends in old age, he started seeing it as something that simply asks for more tenderness and more presence. He began taking time for himself again, not out of loneliness, but out of love, a quiet, honoring kind of love, and with that shift, something beautiful happened. He didn't just feel more physically connected, he felt more emotionally whole, more at peace with where he was in life. So if you've ever thought, I'm too old for this, let me gently say, you are not. Intimacy is not a privilege of the young. It is a lifelong right, and it is never too late to return to it, gently, kindly, and with your whole heart. Now, let's move on to the final thoughts. As we come to the close of this gentle conversation, let's pause together just for a moment and reflect. Throughout life, we are taught how to grow, how to work, how to provide, how to endure. But rarely are we taught how to age with grace, how to remain connected to ourselves, or how to honor the quiet truths of our bodies in later years. The truth is, aging does not take away our need for touch, for closeness, or for the comfort of intimacy. It may change its shape, its rhythm, even its meaning, but the need remains. And you, dear friend, deserve to honor it without shame, without secrecy, without judgment. Each of the 7 mistakes we've explored, whether it's relying solely on habit, ignoring medications, disconnecting emotionally, or carrying old guilt, offers not just a warning, but an invitation. An invitation to grow wiser, to become more tender with yourself, and to rediscover what it means to care for the whole of who you are. Remember, your body is not a machine that has worn down. It is a living vessel that has carried you through decades of love, work, joy, loss, and memory. It still responds to kindness. It still longs for respect, and it still holds the capacity for pleasure, peace, and presence. So, be gentle with yourself. Listen closely, and above all, don't be afraid to grow deeper into who you truly are, even now, even here, even still. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and share it with a friend, a loved one, or anyone who might benefit from it. And please don't forget to subscribe to Grow with Wisdom for more inspiring and thoughtful content, crafted just for you. I'd love to hear from you. What part of today's video resonated with you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's continue supporting and uplifting each other on this journey. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, take care, keep smiling, and most importantly, keep growing with wisdom.